Hey, this is Scene Detail. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 44. Overall, it was a decent card. There were a couple grinders on the main card. The undercard was actually pretty decent. A couple good finishes there. There was a TKO on this one. But yeah, the main card was, there was a couple good performances. Swanson versus Stevens was good. I like Gaslam Musoke. But the other fights were just kind of, and I liked Mutassi versus Ellenberger for the first, 2 rounds. Lamas versus Diaz wasn't too bad. Ferreira versus Craig was not that great, though. Hester versus Neto was alright as well. Something to note here, and this isn't the only... I'm not the only one that thought this, but there was definitely some questionable judging and reffing in this card. The Gibson TKO over Bedford, for example, was questionable reffing. Judging, a lot of people had Muntasri beating Ellenberger. Lamas getting 2 30-27 scorecards over Hawker and Diaz was very questionable. Let's see. Andy Enns getting 30-27 was a bit questionable as well. Or there was a 30-27 scorecard with Enns versus Jimenez, I guess is how you pronounce it. They give Jimenez. Okay. Jimenez the 30-27. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of weird. I thought Andy Enns got that fight, actually. That was kind of surprising. Good performance from Ray Borg. That guy is someone to watch out for. So, as far as bonuses go, Swanson and Stevens got fight of the night. And Ray Borg and Carlos Diego Ferreira got performance of the night awards. My picks, not great, but not too bad. 6 out of 11. I gotta say, and I think this goes for a lot of people who are picking or even betting in questionable judging. It was Texas too, so it's definitely something to think about going forward about judging in the state of Texas. I don't know if it's really the state to blame or what, but yeah, definitely questionable judging there. And let's just get started. Cub Swanson defeated Jeremy Stevens by unanimous decision. I liked what I saw from both guys. Swanson's stand-up style of going in, going out. He has an in and out style. He has a really wide base. It's pretty quick. It works for him really well, and it's been working for him for his last 6 fights. He knocked out Dennis Sievert, had a really good fight with Dustin Poirier, and then beat Stevens, knocked out Ross Pearson, knocked out Charles Oliveira. He definitely has one of the stronger resumes as far as non-champions go in the featherweight division. I liked what I saw from Stevens. He had some improved and patient striking. I know he said he injured his left hand after the second round or so. But I liked what I saw from him. He still kind of looks like a brawler at heart, but you can definitely see he's definitely improved and patient in striking. His cardio seems to have weakened around the 4th and 5th. And his overall grappling has been improving. So, just a good fight from both of them. Cub Swanson showed a really good chin. I think some of the hits that Stevens got on Swanson would have knocked down a lesser fighter. Personally, I think that Cub Swanson should get the winner of Mendes versus Aldo next. I don't see anyone with the resume that really deserves a title shot. Cub Swanson has the best resume. He's been in good fights. He did lose to Aldo by the flying knee double knee back into WEC, but Swanson's just such a better fighter at this point. I think that fight makes the most sense. As far as like Stevens goes, I think he should get the loser of like Dennis Bermudez versus Clay Guida. I know Poirier's coming off a win, but Stevens Poirier would be pretty cool. You can also give him like Dennis Seaver versus Jeremy Stevens would be pretty cool as well. Next fight after that, Kevin Gastelum defeated Nicholas Musoke by unanimous decision. Good first round for Nicholas though, man. He showed some superior grappling. I believe he got the back and whatnot. He's actually a pretty good prospect. Striking's not too bad. Needs to work on his cardio though. And he, didn't look like he liked getting pressured very much. But his grappling's really good as well. And good comeback from Gastelum. Showed some really high pressured. He really went in there. He threw kicks to the head, kicks to the body, kicks to the leg, throw punches, got Musoke against the cage, and just really started to show a strong variety of kicks and just a strong variety of striking in general. Gastelum definitely is a prospect to look out for. I don't know what to say about him training in a small gym in Yuma. I know he was training in rain for a while and whatnot. I thought that was a good fit for him because he needs to hook up with one of the better gyms in order to maximize his potential. Nicholas Musoke, he trains at an All-Stars training center with the likes of Gustafsson, Magnus Sennenblad, Nicholas Backstrom. Some really good fighters out of that gym, and Gastelum, he's still young, but hooking up with a good gym is going to really help his progress. I think Gastelum should get maybe like a Robert Whittaker. Neil Magny's would be a good fight too, so he's on a win streak. Another good fight would be, because he's kind of a gatekeeper type, Mike Pyle. I feel that Mike Pyle's probably one of the better steps up for Gastelum. Both of them have a similar win over Rick Story. And Pyle's always been something of a high, like the gatekeeper to the top 10. Nicholas Musoke should just fight more lower to, just more mid-tier fighters of his division. Good fighter, interesting prospect, still only 26, 27, something like that. Good prospect in his own right though. Next fight after that, Cesar Mutant Ferreira defeated Andre Craig by unanimous decision. Really tend to fight from both these guys, Ferreira did get some pretty cool looking takedowns. Managed to kind of get in there and get some punches in there, but both these guys are pretty tentative. I see that with Ferreira a couple times too. If he's not if he doesn't get the win right away, his fights tend to, when they go to decision, they don't tend to be the most exciting fights. Ferreira's I think you can still call him a prospect. He's a good prospect. He's not a blue chip prospect, Good wrestler, big for the weight class, good striking. He hasn't shown next level skills though. Andrew Craig is just 2 losses in a row, something like that. He lost to Luke Barnett in his last bout, and now lost to Cesar Mutant. He's not the worst fighter or anything like that. Still needs a lot of work to do. They said he was working with the new boxing coach. Still needs some work. I think he's UFC ready. I think, I'm hoping to actually give him another chance. He's not a bad fighter. Still in his mid to late 20s. Still has chances to improve and whatnot. If they keep him, just more lower to mid-tier guys with division for him. Cesar Mutant, maybe give him a good mid-tier guy like an Ed Herman. If you want to go higher up there, you can give him the winner of Brad Tavares versus Tim Bosch. It's pretty high up there. I don't really like that fight, to be honest with you. Another good fight for Cesar Mutant would be him versus Sean Strickland, who's coming off a win over Luke Barnett. So, yeah. But, yeah, you know, Caesar needs to show more in order to prove that he's ready for that, like, top 10. You know, before this, he lost to CB Dollar, and CB Dollar is a good example of a guy that's shown some pretty good improvement, because he's a perennial mid-tier guy, and he really looks like he's really found his stride as of late. Cesar Mutancha, I just don't see that with him. Next fight with that, Ricardo Lamas defeated Hakan Diaz by unanimous decision. 2 30-27 scorecards and 1 29-28. He's going for Hakan Diaz to win this fight, but I would have given the win to Ricardo Lamas regardless. Probably 29-28. I'm surprised by 30-27. I like the striking I saw from Diaz, and he even momentarily dropped Lamas. I gotta say, you know, and I said it in my predictions, I can't predict a Lamas fight, and it's for the reason that I just don't see that next level skill with him. He's a good striker, but he still has a lot of holes in the stand-up. Very susceptible to leg kicks. Good wrestler, but not a great wrestler for like MMA standards. You know, but yeah, you know, still a very good fighter, and I think with Lamas, you know, he managed to get the win against Diaz. It was a pretty hard-fought win, to be honest with you. Or, I thought it was. I think he should get, like, the Korean Zombie next, or maybe Dustin Poirier. With Hakan Diaz, just maybe, like, the loser of, like, Bermudez versus Guida. If you want to, who else? Hachiyoki, Hakan Diaz would be pretty cool as well. But, yeah. Not the best fight, to be honest with you. It wasn't too bad, you know. But it wasn't like a total grind or anything like that. Next fight after that, Clint Hester defeated Antonio Braga Neto by unanimous decision. I agree with the scorecards. This was a case of positional dominance, control on the ground versus a guy who was getting the better versus damage, pretty much. You know, Hester would beat Neto in the stand-up pretty easily. Neto, when the fight hit the ground, I mean, it was all Neto, whether Neto was on his back or, and especially on top. You know, I kind of wish Neto went for a little more on the ground. He had mount, if I'm not mistaken, you know. Maybe, sometimes you gotta go take that risk. And Neto was talking about cutting down to 170. If he could do it, you know, that wouldn't be the worst move for him. Still needs a lot of work with his striking, though. But his ground game definitely is top-notch. Clint Hester, he's an interesting prospect because I don't really know his ceiling quite yet, you know. He didn't get insta-subbed, which was good. Big for the weight class, good striker. I don't know if he's hooked up with I think he's hooked up with one of the ATT affiliates, if I'm not mistaken. So that's good because he definitely needs he's definitely a prospect that needs to hook up with one of the better camps. But you know, I wouldn't say he's a blue chip prospect, but definitely a good prospect. You know, he showed, you know, his striking's good and his grappling's it is steadily improving. I think with him, I think he needs to step up in competition, if not like an Ed Herman or something like that. If you want to give him the winner of Tavares Bosch, that'd be cool. I know Larkin's fighting someone like that. The winner of if you can get Hester versus Larkin, I think that'd be a pretty cool fight as well. You can also go Clint Hester versus like Sean Strickland or something like that. That wouldn't be the worst fight. But yeah, I think you gotta stop giving like Hester like your Andy Enzes or guys he can beat. Well, actually, Neto. I thought Neto was going to beat Hester, but, like, you know, guys that aren't so new to the UFC, I guess. That's what I'm saying. I think he's ready for that stuff up in competition. Next fight after that, Joe Onberger beat James Mutasari by split decision. Don't agree with this decision at all. I thought especially since in the third round, Ellenberger just did next to nothing as far as damage. I mean, he'd get like Muntajri against the cage. Muntajri would throw some short strikes and whatnot, and like defend the takedowns. You know, not much happened in the third round, but I thought Muntajri got the better of the striking in the third, whereas Ellenberger did like nothing. There was an argument too that I heard that Muntajri should have probably got the first round, 10-8. I'm not just saying this because like I picked Muntajri to win or anything. It's just I seriously thought Muntajri should have won the fight. I didn't see much from Ellenberger except for heart. You know, he's a decent striker, good enough wrestler. Muntajri, out of the two guys, I think Muntajri has the more upside. And he took the fight on short notice, you know. So I will say this about Muntajri. Shame on, you know, or just kind of stupid in the third round to kind of like showboat. You know, he's looking at the camera and smiling while throwing punches and stuff. It is just kind of dumb. You know, a stronger sense of urgency and like this, just more of this idea of like really securing the round is what he should have done instead of playing for the camera. So like, it's in a sense it's kind of karmic that he lost the fight. But yeah, both these guys just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. Got the prelims, Carlos Diego Ferreira defeated Colton Smith by rear naked choke. Kind of old school here, you know. I mean, it was like this weird. He hooked one. It was an old school rear naked choke you'd see from like Hoist Gracie, you know. He'd hook one leg from like, I want to say like the ride position almost, and well, no, that's not the right. It's just he hooked one leg and then got the rear naked choke. It seemed very very beginner, I guess, of Colton Smith to lose that way. Very interesting too that Colton Smith, this is the second time this happened to Michael Chiesa as well, that he got judo tossed and then subsequently rear naked choked after the judo toss. Happened against Michael Chiesa and happened here against Ferreira. I gotta say, it's 3 losses in a row for Colton Smith. He's a tough winner in one of the weakest seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. You know, he should probably get cut from the UFC. He's just not very good. You know, he's a grinder. He doesn't have a fan-friendly style. And he loses. Definitively. You know, he lost to Robert Whittaker, cut down, lost to Michael Chiesa, you know, Whittaker by TKO, Chiesa by rear naked choke, and now 38-second rear naked choke loss to a UFC newcomer and Carlos Diego Ferreira. It's just not a good look for Colton Smith. And the guy's record, honestly, if you don't count his Ultimate Fighter wins, is like 3 wins, 4 losses at this point. I mean, it's just not there, you know, for him. Carlos Diego Ferreira, good prospect, you know. He has a really good ground game. Nice judo there. Kind of a brawler in the stand-up, though, but liked what I saw. Just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Okay, next fight after that, Cody Gibson defeated Johnny Bedford by TKO in the first round. This is a questionable refereeing here, you know. It's just one of those cases where, I mean, I guess I can see the argument for stopping the fight, but, you know, it's just, I think we've kind of seen, unless the guy is just knocked out cold or, like, taking uncontested ground and pound, we've seen it a lot of times where a guy gets dropped. Dude, didn't we just see that with, like, the Joe Ellenberger James Vitali fight? Guy gets dropped, subsequently gets hit. You know, I mean, they didn't call that fight off. You know, I mean, it's just kind of strange in this fight that, you know, I mean, that in this fight, I guess you can say that Johnny Bedford was out for, like, you know, that half a second, I suppose, but, you know, to add consistency, I would at least think that, wouldn't you want to say the same with the Joe Ellenberg James Vitali fight? I mean, that's why I kind of find this a very contentious stoppage here. You know, for the amount it lasted, Johnny Bedford actually employed the game plan I kind of thought he would. High pressure, try and use his size and his striking to overwhelm his opponent. Gibson, though, managed to, drop him halfway across the cage. And subsequently get the win. Contentious as it may be, Bedford was not in a great position here. With Gibson, though, he's a good prospect. I gotta say, he looked good against Aljamain Sterling, Aljamain Sterling, who is a pretty highly regarded prospect. And, he looks pretty good. His striking's good and his wrestling's good. Bedford's kind of just there. I'd say he's kind of a gatekeeper at this point. Good striker. Has some liabilities on the ground still. He still gets submitted. Good ground and pound. But I wouldn't call him much of a prospect at this point. Just a good mid-level guy at this point. And I think I think they'll keep Bedford. Because he's coming off a no contest or DQ, I forgot. And his last fight against Ronnie Yaya. So I think they'll keep Bedford too. Just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division for both. Next fight after that, Marcelo, I guess it's Jimenez, defeated Andy Enns by split decision. Once again, 30-27 for one of these guys seems a bit off to me. I actually I thought Andy Enns should have won the fight, but he was getting hit with overhands, whereas Enns was hitting him with straight rights. Both these guys are on the lower end of middleweight, and just the lower, they're kind of lower tier fighters of the UFC. I don't know if they'll keep Andy Enns. He's still young, but he can probably use some seasoning. He hooked up with a MMA lab, so he did hook up with a good camp, which is good, and he's still young. But I think he should probably, he lost to Clint Hester before this. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets cut from the UFC. I would have said the same for Marcelo if he lost this fight, but I can't really, with his skill set, he's not a good wrestler, and I had a really hard time taking down Enns and keeping him there, and his striking's very rudimentary. I'd be surprised, I'm kind of surprised he stayed in the UFC as long as he has, to be honest with you. He should probably fight just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Okay, next out that, Ray Borg defeated Shane Howell by assimilation. Just kidding. Star Trek reference, but by a rear naked choke in the first round. Borg is a special talent, man. 20 years old. Has he's a really good scrambler and one of the best back takers I have ever seen. Not ever seen, but one of the best back takers in the flyweight division. I mean, you saw it in the Dustin Ortiz fight too. Apparently, he got the submission 2 minutes and 17 seconds in the first round, and it is the fastest submission victory in UFC flyweight history. Shane Allen's kind of tailor-made to lose to Ray Borg. I can't say much about him. He took the fight on short notice. I'll probably give him another fight. Just fight more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Ray Borg, I'm kind of high on him. I gotta say, and he hit this really nice straight right, and then the cut, so he couldn't, or was it a pivot? So he'd avoid the counter too. So his striking's improving as well. I like what I see from the guy. I wouldn't mind seeing him get a step up in competition, to be honest with you. If you want to give him a John Moraga, maybe a Jorgensen or something like that, that would be pretty cool. I think he should kind of bypass the lower levels of the division. I think he's already ready for that mid, more of that mid tier. And Moraga's actually pretty high up there, so I'm pretty high. That shows how high I am on board. Maybe a Jorgensen. Who else is mid? It's hard to remember who the mid tier guys of flyweight. 'Cause it's still a relatively thin division. Something like that, I guess. And finally, Alexei Olenek defeated Anthony Hamilton by neck crank. 2 minutes and 18 seconds in the first round. He also beat Miracle Crocop by the same neck crank. Olenek has some very interesting submissions for MMA. He regularly goes to the Ezekiel choke, and then he has these like neck crank type of submissions. It's not a good look for Anthony Hamilton to fall for that. He also got outstruck as well. So, you know, it was a pretty tough first fight in the UFC for Anthony Hamilton. Olenek just is way too experienced. Yeah, pretty much way too experienced for Hamilton at that point. There's not much. These guys aren't really prospects at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, Hamilton's in his early to mid 30s. Chains at Jackson Winklejohn, but he doesn't seem like. I just can't see much more out of him. And Olenek would be a good like gatekeeper type for the UFC. I mean, he's not getting better. He's in his like mid to late 30s, if I'm not mistaken. But he's definitely good enough to get wins in the UFC. So he'd be something of a good gatekeeper type. So, and that's, you know, so just more lower to mid tier guys in the division for these two. So that's pretty much it for my UFC Fight Night 44 post-fight analysis. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.